nice thing about the sensory data is it doesn't have any of that, that subjective view to it. The bad news about it, or not bad news, the challenge with that, right, is the amount of data you get, right? And now what am I supposed to do with all that data to collect that up? So it really comes down to how do we manage so much data then, if we are collecting it up, rather than, you know, one subjective view, hey, you know, this happened, but rather I've got tens of millions or hundreds of millions of rows of data about what these devices are telling me.
Yeah, that's a great question. So where we see a big problem right now is because we have so much of our attention focused on applications like electronic health record solutions or other ERP type of applications, we often forget that applications come and go, but that data lives forever. We will spend $300 million on acquiring our application suites, but we won't even spend $1 million on data archiving, storage management, et cetera. It's insane the way that we make these choices and how important data is just like money. How do you treat money today? Do you just throw it everywhere? See, you don't assign any owners to that money? You just say, as long as it gets back and forth, we'll be able to buy things, we'll be okay. No, you have a CFO. Do you have a chief data officer? That data has more value to you in many cases than the cash sitting in your bank accounts. It needs to be as liquid and needs to be treated better than maybe perhaps you're treating your bank accounts, but we don't. We're so enamored by what we can see on screens that we forget that the data behind it is what's going to make all that happen. So the simple lesson here is if your hospital systems are not spending a ton of time and money and effort and resources in storage management, data acquisition managers, understanding how it's going to be archived, what is live data and what is archived data, how long am I going to keep it around, you're just going to get caught with your pants down, and then you'll find out, once you've lost data, that you actually needed it. Data kind of ages like fine wine. You have no idea what value data is going to have 10 years from now, because data can be used for retrospective analysis as well as prospective analytics to tell you predictive-wise, you know, don't do this and don't buy that. So what's happening these days is a lot of CIOs and others are just making the decision, oh, it's too hard to store all of this. It's not hard. It has a cost associated with it, but it's definitely not hard. Managing the storage and doing so by saying, you know what, I won't need this data after a year is not a good idea, because a year or 2, 3 years from now, 5 years from now, the data analytical capabilities that we will have that will be able to find and mine data in large amounts of data sources will be significantly better than they are today, just like we have them better than they were 5 years ago. So treat your data as an asset in the same way that you would treat it as money. Try and ask your CIO and say, how does money get managed in banks versus data gets managed in the systems? In our technical systems, we basically say, oh, the application will just manage that. That's like saying your website that happens to manage your bank account is going to manage that. No, some person is supposed to manage how it comes in, how it's used, et cetera. So this is, I'm seeing this a lot of mistakes at hospitals is data is flying through and is just being thrown out. And it has significant value both today, but even more so 5 years from now, 10 years from now. And that operational intelligence, especially what I love about what you guys are doing at Intelligent Insights is that you're focused on data that matters right now, but then you can use that for predictive purposes about what may happen a year from now, 2 years from now, based on these same kinds of pathways that people are going through. So it's good stuff, but we have a lot to worry about because data is definitely not treated as the importance that it needs.
No.